June 6, 1944, D-Day. Allied troops land on the windswept beaches of Normandy. The invasion of Germany's fortress Europe begins. Most of the American soldiers are green. June 6 is their baptism by fire. The American 29th Division lands at Omaha Beach. They are under heavy fire, but they push off the beach. They will keep pushing until they reach Saint-Lô. Many of the German soldiers are veterans. June 6 means another day under fire. The German 352nd Infantry Division moves up to meet the Americans. Veterans of the bitter fighting on the Russian front. The men of the 352nd know how to fight, and they expect to win.
Howdy folks, Effing Controller here, and today we'll be playing Close Combat, which is a game made by Atomic Studios and published by Microsoft, as you just saw, back in 1996. And I guess I'm playing this as a part of my ongoing Mac gaming story arc that I've been running through on my channel recently, although I say recently, it's been over the course of a year because I've been so slow at playing stuff. But I guess that this game certainly was not a Mac exclusive, but it was a game that I played quite a bit growing up on my Mac. I'm playing it right now on a Mac G3 that I've purchased, and it's running along just fine, as you can probably hear. That is the CD-ROM drive, which is just unbearably loud for me, and probably for you. So I apologize for that. Maybe in future installments of this we'll get rid of that. But in any event, I'm playing this because of the nostalgia I have for it from growing up and playing it, but also it's a good game, and I feel like it's worth sharing for that reason, if nothing else, right? Seems reasonable to me. But it is also a very prolific series. Close Combat has, I think, I don't know how many games are in that series. Would it be, it's over a dozen. I know that. I don't know if it's 24. Somewhere in between, I bet. So I'm sure that you've probably heard of it. Most of you have probably heard of it anyways. You're at least acquainted with it. But this one right here is the granddaddy of them all. It is a top-down strategy / tactics game where you play as either the Americans or as the Germans during the Normandy campaign of World War II. And if you're playing as the Americans, your objective is to push forward from the beachheads that were established on D-Day and eventually capture the city of Saint-Lô. And if you're playing as the Germans, your objective is to slow down the American advance as much as possible, delay the Americans ostensibly long enough for reinforcements to arrive. And so your role is to command a company of men, a veritable band of brothers, directing their fire and the directions of their advances, and telling them what to do. And they usually will follow your orders, but sometimes they don't, because if your orders are bad and dangerous, they will not do them, because, I mean, why would they? So we'll definitely be seeing some of that in action as I am the one playing it. But I guess that kind of touches on something else that's cool about this game, which is that it's very complex under the hood. There's all kinds of different stats that are being tracked at any given moment. Like your soldiers have morale, they have endurance, and they have different weapons that they each individually use. The terrain has different cover and durability, exposure to fire. There's a whole lot of stuff going on at any given moment, but despite that kind of underlying complexity, the game actually plays pretty simply, and it's pretty easy to come to grips with at a basic level. But then there's all kinds of these kind of expanded things that you can put your hands on a little bit more and get into some more complex strategizing based on your understanding of what's happening. So I think it's a great game for that reason, and it is also a big nerdy game because it had this great manual that I cannot find. I don't know where it is. It used to be at my parents' place, but I think it's in a landfill somewhere, unfortunately. But it was this big, thick manual, and I think over half of it was dedicated to just World War II history and talking about equipment, talking about D-Day, but also the war at large. It was this really cool, nerdy tome. And this is just a big nerdy game, and I'm nerding out about it, and I should be playing it. So let's get to that. A Bridge Too Far, yes, that's probably, well, I'm not going to say probably most people's encounter with it. That was the second game in the series, if I recall correctly. But it was much more, I'm going to say it was more polished than this one. But it was also quite good. I would like to possibly play that on here too, but we're going to start with this one. We have a few different options up here that we should talk about. We have the boot camp, which is just like tutorial stuff. Maneuvers will let you pick an individual battle to play. And then we have the campaign, which is what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to keep it on normal. It maintains the same level of strength that the game anticipates that you would want, or that should be historically accurate, I guess, between the Americans and Germans. It doesn't give you any special advantages in terms of fog of war and your men's compliance with your orders. So I think that this is just a good all-around way to play and to kind of dip our toes into the waters here. We're going to go ahead and get started. And what should my commander name be? We can now really hear the CD-ROM drive. What note is that? Is that a C or is it a G? Or is it a CD? Heyo! I mean, I could just be uninventive. There we go. I think that there is a limit to the characters. Yeah, see? I mean, I can do Effington. That might be a nice callback. Effing Patton. Well, so interestingly, maybe this isn't interesting, but the game has a list of names that it draws from for all of the soldiers, and I believe all of the major World War II commanders are in that list. So I imagine that Patton, we could in fact have a private Patton that's part of our team, but our company. I'm going to call the campaign LP. Miss. Here we go. Wind it up. Okay, so we're going to get started here. And we have another video.
You fought your way off Omaha Beach and onto the high ground. Your reward? New orders. Push inland toward the town of Longueville and clear German resistance along the way. American units are scattered and intermingled. Communications and coordination are sketchy at best. The Germans will do their best to delay your progress inland. You'll have to fight every inch of the way against experienced troops who can turn a hedgerow or a building into a fortress.
Okay, here we are. Alright, so we start in the unit deployment mode, which lets us, position our men. This is right here like a squad of infantry. They're all hunkered down. They're laying in this wheat and then in this shell crater. You can see that there's various terrain, like this is wheat, craters. This is a building that some of my men are hiding in. I do have an M4. You already noticed right there. We have a list of all of our different assets, our teams that we have at our disposal. Hopefully we don't dispose of them too rashly, but we do have we have an actual M4 here that's hiding in the trees that we will definitely be putting to good use. Hopefully putting to good use. But then you can see here we are part of a squad of infantry with a Bradley automatic rifle here. This is your trusty leader, Effington, right here. And so I'm part of this squad that's laying in these bushes. This phase is really the most important part of the game, to be honest with you, because you have to figure out where to position your troops relative to where the enemy is going to position their troops. It's kind of the basis of most battles, I guess. You have to know where to put your stuff. And as far as how this works, this area that's not shaded is terrain where I can place my troops. This gray area is a no man's land, and then this area is anywhere that the Germans can place their troops. The AI tends to correctly, really, fixate on buildings. It's going to put soldiers in this granary, this gatehouse, this church, probably. Probably will not put them anywhere else. It could put something in one of these buildings to the back. By the way, you can also zoom in and out. This gives you a great overview of the battle in total. If you zoom in, this is kind of the main area where the action is, and then if you zoom in, you can get extra crunchy pixel action if you want. Yeah, they're all doing various core exercises to prepare themselves for the onslaught of having to eventually. They'll have to do Buns of Steel too, I imagine. The game is not over if Effington is killed. Oddly enough, if your first lieutenant here that you are, if you can't ever get killed, and in fact, there's 3 different levels of injury in close combat, at least in this game. There's hurt, incapacitated, and then dead. Your first lieutenant here can never be dead, and if he's incapacitated, he comes right back for the next battle. It's kind of crazy. So, something important to note here is we return to the map over and over again, correct? We don't necessarily, not over and over again. I think that may be more often than you really need to, but we do quite a bit. So we will be in the start of this just to kind of review our work here. But you can see, though, that we have a few different assets that I need to think about the positioning of. It's important to have leaders in kind of geographically diverse areas of the map so that they can give commands to your men. If you don't have a leader nearby, so these first lieutenants are leaders, and then there's a buck sergeant here who functions as a leader who can give commands to nearby squads that don't have leaders. If you give them commands and they don't have a leader nearby, they won't do things, or they'll do them very slowly or kind of ineptly. So it's good to have Sergeant Bosco here near some other troops who might need to have guidance. So let's think. We have these different buildings where the enemy will be. This church here is kind of the southernmost building that we have to worry about. So it would seem to me, it is a good name. It's just a good name overall. To me, what I like to do on this level, and I have to admit that I've played this a few times because I played it growing up and I've kind of refreshed my memory on how to play. It's a good idea to kind of flank them this way. So let's take a look at the terrain here. There's this open area here that we can actually get behind this wall and maybe lay down fire on anybody who happens to be in this side of the church. The difficulty could be, though, that's maybe the Germans put something here. That's a great little, kind of contained area that they could put an MG in and just shred anything that comes through here. Or, for that matter, they could put Panzerschrecks. Panzerschrecks will kill any and all of our tanks, I think. Mortars can lay smoke. That is a very good point, Pegasi. Smoke is something that we'll be using quite a bit, hopefully, if I remember to do it, which I should. But yes, hey, Necro, welcome. Good to see you. They can lay smoke. Your infantry can lay smoke. And yeah. Oh boy is right. So let's see. How do we want to distribute everybody? I'm going to put my squad up in this building. And you generally don't want to have your men bunched up too much. This is a bazooka team. You also kind of want to have them I like to organize my men such that, like, these guys that are here, this unit is going to be towards the north, and then they get further south as you go down the list. Does that make sense? I don't know. We don't have white phosphorus in this game. Microsoft, for some reason, decided not to include that. So right now I'm just kind of distributing everybody so that I can move them in the way that I ideally want them to be moved and that they're well organized and all that jazz. This is a rifle team or squad. We've got 2 light mortars. Mortars are really pretty devastating in this game. I don't know if I like them just being in the trees, though. That doesn't make sense. I'm going to hang out there and maybe even tell my men to hide here. There's different commands that you can give. I think I'm going to have these troops hide, because I don't want them to get, well, they might end up getting seen anyways, but I don't need them to lay down fire necessarily. I just want them to, well, do I want to have another squad up there though? It's going to get a little crowded in there. I think that this is sufficient. Putting your men up here, I think, is probably a bad call, because they could put an MG in here. They may not necessarily be able to hit us over the wall here, but once we get to the wall, they're going to get shredded. And I think anything that is here in this area will be able to take shots at anything that's crawling through here. So, yeah, we're at the start of the battle, so we're kind of initially deciding what we're going to do. So we also have a machine gun, which is very nice to have. I'm going to keep them in the woods here. This is another, I just want to make sure everybody's accounted for. So I'm up here. We got a lieutenant down here. The tank is there. The machine gun's in here. We have our 2 mortars that are kind of right next to each other. That's a bazooka, just in case there's any tanks. Infantry, 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 and infantry. I'm going to actually move, just in case there's kind of an attack of opportunity that I can make. You know what I mean? Like, if I end up finding out that there's nobody in the granary, or very few people in the granary, I might need to have some troops to take advantage of that. One thing to bear in mind is that we almost always outnumber the Germans, so we don't really have to worry about getting overwhelmed too much. He says that, but will he be right? That's a good question. Okay, I think that we're all set here. I think that this is pretty decent. We have men that are in cover. We have our tank that's nice and secure. You never want to have a tank starting out the battle just in the open. Panzerschrecks, Panzerfausts are just a nightmare. So we're going to get started. The game's going to get a little bit noisy, which is why I started with a sound check, because you're going to hear a lot of yelling and a lot of gunfire. So I guess if you're in a room with a sleeping baby, get out. I don't know. All right, let's go. All right, so my men are going to start kind of milling around. It's all's quiet for now, but I bet we're going to... Okay, we're seeing some movement here. We're shooting at them. There's an MG in there. I'm going to have my mortars fire on them. I just heard a Panzerschreck. One there, and then there's one there. They went heavy over here, it looks like. I'm hearing there's another Panzerschreck up here. I want to get rid of the Panzerschrecks as much as I can. They're not going to be able to maneuver it down here, really. So maybe I don't need to worry about that. Okay. Do they have anything up here is my main worry. We're going to take casualties, by the way. It's just the way it's going to go. Wait, that's not the right team. Okay, we're going to just start moving. Other teams that I'm missing. Let's move you. This is one cool thing about that map, is you can make commands out of this. So Sergeant Bosco needs to lay some smoke down, please. So real quick, move means that your men will move kind of slowly. They won't try to tire themselves out. Move fast means that they'll basically sprint. So we want them to actually start moving pretty quick here. It's not enough smoke. There are troops in here. Okay, so that's important. We need to start putting our mortars down there. There was a pretty bad mortar hit there, it looked like. I wonder if we should start... because the north is looking pretty supple over here. I wonder if we can move troops up there. Well, we can... Oh god, they're going. Hopefully there's not an MG here. I missed one of the squads. I didn't tell them to... Didn't tell them to stop, and they should have. I think that we're actually safe to move the tank. I'm going to move the tank. Come on, guys. There's still an MG there. I don't want to move. I don't want to move these northern troops up because they'll get shredded. There's an MG-42 right there. Yes, it does matter. They gain experience, so you don't want to just get rid of them. You don't want to be callous about your use of your troops. Come on, guys. I just need them to throw smoke. They are not listening to my command, though. So that means that I either don't have a leader nearby or they're too busy. You just heard a German cry out, Feldwebel, which I think is that a lieutenant or is that a sergeant? That's a really... We actually didn't talk about something really important. I'm going to kind of pause the game. There is no real meaningful pause, by the way. You can pause the battle, but you can't issue commands, which would kind of destroy the flow of the game. But the only reason I'm pausing here is that there's this force morale meter, and that determines who wins the battle in general. If we stay in the green and the Germans go into the red, it's a decisive victory for us. If we both go into the red or both go into the yellow, I think it turns into, it's determined by points. That's not how it works. If we go into the yellow and they go into the red, it's a German, or it's a minor American victory. If we both go into the red, I think it's a German minor victory, or it gets decided on points. Shoot, I can't remember, but that's how it's decided. Yeah, that is a good point, Lethal. The Sherman will very gently roll over our troops. Can we get some smoke out here, guys? Or do we need to use the mortar? We might have to just use the mortar here, because this is getting a little bit frustrating. Are they pinned down? Is that what their problem is? Okay. Okay, guys, let's get going. Let's go. So, I'm not seeing anything on the southern half of this church. Once we get these troops up, we should be able to hopefully lay down some smoke here and have them run up and take the church. Okay, so what else do I have? I have an MG that I need to move. Move there, and then there. Incoming! Oh, is he out of ammo? I thought that... Oh, he's got 10 smoke rounds, is what that is. Okay. Okay, I'm going to have you guys move over to this flank here, just to make sure that there's nothing that's along this wall, hopefully. Yeah, so the SEP guy is either routing or just got dazed. That might have been Quartermain. It actually is. But you get kind of bogged down sometimes, like I am kind of now. MG is still there, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, he just fired. Okay, so we can't really do anything up here without taking a lot of casualties. Okay, we're not seeing anything over here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this team smoke it up. Alright, he fired smoke. I.O. Silver. Oh, gotta wind it up. Combined arms! Oh shit. That was not the way to do that. So now hopefully we can start shooting these guys in the back. And they'll panic also if I start doing that. Look at that. Look at the force morale just dropped immediately into the red. Look at that. And we get extra points if we can capture that objective. Once we are in the green and they're in the red, the game starts a timer. And it's a victory timer, basically. So we need to try to...
Area secured.
We need to try to capture this here. And I think we just won. Oh, well that... I clicked at the wrong time, but that said that was a major American victory and we gained 13 hours. Okay, so we just fought our first battle. It was a little bit rough. But, yeah, nice. Nice. But we did overall pretty well. There were some things where I kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit too much. Yeah, it's just as I intended. So, let's talk about this screen real quick. 11 purple hearts isn't great. That's 10% of our company. Well, more than 10% of our company. I'm sure we have much fewer than 100. The big goal here is to get this yellow bar up at the top all the way through the campaign and liberate Saint-Lô. We're running against this green bar at the bottom. We'll look at that in a minute, Pegasi. The green bar is the actual historic progress, so we're ahead of schedule. If somehow the green bar got all the way to the end of this line, we would lose the game. On the contrary, or I guess it's the red line here. On the contrary, if we were playing as the Germans, we would want this green bar to get all the way, because then at that point we will have delayed the American advance. So, to me, the German playthrough is a little bit more interesting because you have to be defensive and you have to think about conserving resources. So, I mean, that's kind of an interesting dilemma. Whereas as the Americans, you're kind of just bodying the, the Germans the whole time. You're just kind of like, bah! Let's see how I can smash into your tiny formations and do this as quickly as possible. Yeah. The Americans typically outnumber the Germans, so if anything, you can just kind of sit and just whittle them down if they are dumb, and the AI isn't particularly smart in that regard. So, in any event, you can just do that. But I'm going to try to make things a little bit more interesting, probably do things that are super dumb. So, let's look at the details here. So, I got 3 acts of bravery, even though I was just sitting in a house. What this actually is, though, your lieutenants and leaders get acts of bravery just for winning the battle overall, I think is the main thing. So, or people who lead squads will get acts of bravery. So there's that. We will have people who have acts of cowardice, because we did have a guy get separated, I think. We had a couple acts of cowardice, so that happens though. This is a war. You know, you can't have perfection. We were pretty effective though, I have to say. Like, we killed a lot of them. That's pretty gruesome for the Germans. We're at the bottom of the list here, and what this is showing is anybody with a yellow is hurt. Anybody with 2 reds is incapacitated, so they will be out for the next battle. And then anybody who's KIA is dead. So Sergeant Bosco unfortunately died, who had a great name, didn't live up to it. He died up to it. That's terrible. And we'll see, the thing is, though, Pegasi, is that they probably had this act of cowardice after they were injured. So they probably went and hid, or they ran away from the front. Understandable. I mean, I can't really blame them. Let's take a look at what the Germans did. They did kill... Oh man, they're looking a little thin. Look at the majority of their troops were either killed or wounded severely. That's not good if you're playing as the Germans. Germans only get a wound badge if they're either killed or incapacitated, by the way. If they just get hurt, they do not receive a wound badge. Fun fact. Do they have... They have this guy. Is this guy a Leutnant? I don't remember what the rank insignia are. They tend to have their officers in these MG42 fire teams, so I don't know. Corporal Dinter didn't do nothing, even though he was a sniper. And that's true, A-Thing. Yeah, we can actually see when a troop or a soldier gets separated, for instance. And then we'll also see like reports of, in that bottom right corner, of soldiers cowering and things like that. So, you know. Just looking here. Oh, and also your officers will receive acts of cowardice for losing battles, for instance. It's just meant to reflect poorly on their overall reputation, I guess. Maybe that's the way to think of it. I don't know. Anyways, we really walloped them. So, when you achieve a major victory, the game advances you usually, I think it's usually 2 battles ahead in the scenario, in the overall battle. Is that the right way? The maneuver, I think, is the way that the game calls it. So, we'll be playing Off the Beach battle number 3, I think, in this next battle. We'll find out, I guess. Is everybody ready, or do we want to see the newsreel? Dateline Normandy.
By 1000 hours on June 6, scattered units of the 29th Division had fought their way off Omaha Beach onto the high ground. Over the next 2 days, they encountered hard fighting. Typical of this action was the advance through Saint Laurent, where German resistance allowed the Americans to advance just half a mile that day. Saint Laurent was a tough obstacle. Outside the village, enemy machine guns and snipers fired from entrenched positions. A company of Germans controlled the main crossroads, delaying the Americans all afternoon. The attack was halted at nightfall, and the Americans assembled to the southwest. Enemy resistance was finally cleared on June 7. The Americans now had a tenuous foothold, less than 1.5 miles deep, and there would be no turning back.
By the way, some of you may have recognized that voice. Maybe not. If it's familiar, you might also be familiar with a little piece of American culture, one of our finest works. A little show called Gilligan's Island. That is, what's his name? Russell Johnson, the man who played the professor on Gilligan's Island. Anyways, fun little factoid. We're going to play the next battle. Okay. So, let's take a look at the map. You can see that we're on Off the Beach number 3. Battle number 3. And so, this was where we started, and then we pushed all the way up here. So, we have now taken up a position in this part of the little town. Our mortars are a hilarious distance away from the battle. We're going to just move them right up and then worry about the particulars here in a minute. But we still have the same core set of assets for this. We still have Effington here. By the way, these little pips that are in our unit portraits kind of just reflect the overall effectiveness of the soldiers that are in whatever squad or fire team it is. Yeah, exactly. There are some maps that are enormous to Pegasi, so it really can take a long time. Is there a new Bosco? I'm assuming that... Was this Bosco's team here? We don't have we can't just promote a sergeant out of the group. I think that this was his unit, so I think Murch is in charge now. And it's interesting because it really ought to be obviously Taylor or Baker, either one. But Murch is being considered a leader for some reason. I don't know exactly how the game decides who is a leader and who's not, but because again, clearly outranked. But yeah, exactly, Zerf. Highly famous. First things first. I can already see on the map that our tank is just sitting out in the open, and we never want that. I'm going to hide him back here. He will always be the sergeant of our hearts. We have a grove of trees next to this warehouse. These actually provide okay cover, not to be confused with OK Cupid. But maybe we'll bumble into this warehouse and grinder our way through. Oh, shit. He's back, folks. Merch, who has a lot for sale. I think is going to just... Well, let's see. How do we want to do this? This MG team on its own in the field kitchen is probably not a great idea. So we're probably going to... Oh, did the audio desync? Maybe before we start the battle, I'll try to fix that. Maybe put you down here. One thing to note, this is actually not great cover from what I've experienced. This is a blown out wall, and it's, well, otherwise known as rubble, but it doesn't seem to afford too much protection. So we want to... maybe this is actually a kind of a good setup. As your men get more experience, they'll know not to hide in places that are going to get them killed. So that's one fun fact. And as you deploy them too, they'll figure out, oh, this is a better place for me to be. So they're going to do that. This is that poor rifle squad that led the advance on the church. I think we'll keep them in the CP here, but I think we'll move them off a little bit. This 50 cal, I'm going to just have them hang out here. I predict that I'm going to need to put them either here or here. Probably here, because there's... Well, I don't know for sure yet. I don't want them... Your MG teams are a prime target for the Germans. So I don't want to have them in a wood building. Wood buildings are easily shot through by MG42s. The MG42 is a phenomenally powerful gun, and it can shoot through wood with relative ease. So we don't want to necessarily have the 30 cal in anything but a stone building. You can have them out in the open if you need to start, you know, laying suppressing fire and things like that. But I don't know. I think our overall plan of action is to maybe push through the north here, because this warehouse is kind of supple. This block of wheat that's enclosed here, I don't like the look of this. I think that they'll probably put something in here, and then we'll get up close to it, and they'll be like, surprise, motherfucker, and start shooting at us. They will also be, I did not know this was here. As you might expect, a bunker is not an easy thing to deal with in this game. Yeah, that wheat's staying right there. And then this grist mill is going to be a problem too because it's a stone building. I don't know what they really have left though in the way of troops. They didn't have too much, so they may not be able to mount much of a resistance. I think though that proceeding... I want to know what's in this bunker. If there's something especially problematic in here, that's going to change the whole dynamic. Let's have King go here. This poor little trio is going to hang out. How many men are in this squad? 6. How many are in this squad, actually? Was it 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, they've got an MG with them, so they can make it. They'll be fine. They'll be just fine. And then this is me. And then I've got another squad hanging out up here. And the Sherman is well back from the action, which is where I want it, frankly. Once I figure out what's happening, then I'll call it up to a position where it can start laying down fire. I'm going to briefly unplug the converter. So we're going to lose the picture. And then it's going to come back, hopefully. Okay, and then the audio should be resynced. I think that top rifle is actually going to be okay there, believe it or not. Yeah, they're gonna pick apples. I'm gonna tell them to hide. Is my first command for them. So we could, if it would make you feel better, Lethal, we could put these guys kind of right here, and that way they can shoot at the warehouse to give them some cover if we do need to pull them back. The thing about it is that the enemy will have a hard time actually seeing them through these trees. So I think that they'll be okay. But if they're not, then you know who to blame. I think that this is good. I think, let's just double check this mortar down here, actually, because he might be exposed. No, he should be out of the line of sight of that grist mill. Let's just move him up, just to be absolutely sure. Maybe not, actually. Maybe that's not safe. Maybe have him over here by the tank. I just really don't want to lose my mortars. They're super important. All right, are we ready to go? What do you think? I think we're good. So there's a recon team that was up here poking around. We took a hit and then everything went quiet. Well, it wouldn't hurt to start... Okay. that kind of happened abruptly. There's a Panzerschreck here. Right down the line, too. That's unfortunate. You guys need to hide. Because that's just ridiculous there. Is that 2 MGs? It's just the one. Okay. Then we have an MG here with a Panzerschreck, supposedly. And then we have a rifle squad there. We're going to move you up. We're going to do a little bit of smoke right here. Are they going to throw that by hand? What are you guys doing? I mean, I don't really need that. Okay, what are you doing? gonna move you guys down here. And then they can start firing on this squad here. Panzerfaust and Panzerschrecks can destroy a tank, like, immediately. They're extremely dangerous. Trying to obscure the tank's movement down this line. It may seem a little bit precious, but it's legit. This is actually a good line, right? Oh, there's a tree there. That's perfect. So this tank needs to boogie, boogie, boogie. Get behind that motor pool there, and then we can probably move through here. Okay. So there's a recon detachment there and an MG42. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have my tank go over here. Quickly, quickly, quickly. He can go through the trees here. The only reason, really, that I can think of to not have the tank move fast is there are situations where you want your tank to move backwards. Somebody just shot a Panzerschreck. I don't know what that was. There's this defend command, which will tell my men to focus their defense against anything that's in front of them, or in an arc that you determine. They'll take cover and act accordingly. I want you to move over here so that you're behind cover. See, they just shot a Panzerschreck. Somehow they missed. They're throwing grenades at us too.
Secure the area.
Get in there. It doesn't have a fuel limit, no.
Area secured.
Feldwebel is sergeant, right? I can't remember. Leutnant is just lieutenant. Okay, yeah. This guy might be... Oh, he's injured. Okay, so he's just stuck. Alright, so we took this. Good job for us. But now we need to figure out what to do about the south here. I can't really run the tank all the way down there. That's stupid. Supposedly there... Oh, there's a rifle squad here. Can I lay down fire on them? Not really. Ah, man, I don't have a way to hit that bunker. What's going on with that MG, I wonder? They're still firing. Supposedly I can direct fire at the bunker with the MG. That will help at least in terms of suppressing them. Anytime you hear a oof or a without an American screaming out in agony, that is a German being injured. We keep hitting their commanders, though, which is extremely good. I'm nervous about this tank, but we're about to win, so I'm gonna just kind of keep it puckered here, folks. If I can, I don't know that there's much fire coming out of this anymore. They're not using the... Yeah, they weren't using the Panzerschreck on my tank, so I guess that worked out. Oh, that was just the CD-ROM spinning up. We didn't win yet. Alright. The Germans have been routed, resulting in a major American victory. The American advance has been accelerated by 5 hours. Alright. This is the Butcher's Bill. We got 6 purple hearts out of that. Your men can get things like, you can get a Medal of Honor. I don't know how that happens, but it's a thing that can happen. What message? What are you talking about? Let's see it. I'm gonna worry about that later. In any event, let's take a look at the details here. My God, the CD-ROM drive. Lots of acts of bravery. This is a previous Purple Heart that he got. We have any acts of cowardice? Merch. Private merch. Yeah, the M4 is just so devastating. It's so effective. We got Hacksaw Jim Dugan here. Hackett can hack it. Marvin Hagler for becoming a boxer. Pretty good overall. That guy got... Oh no, there was only 1 act of cowardice in this battle, supposedly. By Merch. We lost 2. 2 were incapacitated. The Germans, meanwhile, they got reinforced, so they have quite a few more troops, but they didn't do very well. They kind of took it in the pants, it looks like. Yeah, so you actually can see here, too. There's leadership, physical condition, mental condition, experience, and morale, and these all affect how well individual soldiers fight. So... I would say that went pretty well. We only lost 2, which is great. It's not great for them, but it's good for the overall organization, right? Oh boy. Okay, so we have completed the off the beach maneuver. We are going to be moving on to a new maneuver called Across the Ore, I think is the next one. So let's see what that is all about.